What's up, Vault Heads? So we've just got another Borderlands 4 trailer. This is the story trailer. There's quite a lot in this one, so we're just going to slow it down, take a bit of time looking at this one. It's pretty meaty, this one. Pretty meaty. There's quite a bit here, so we're just going to go through and give it a chew. So this is our first scene, and this is one that is very, very familiar. We've seen this multiple times in the trailers so far. This structure going through the middle, which is, I think, connected to one of the Order facilities that is helping to send resources or power around Kairos towards whatever the Timekeeper is getting up to. In the sky we have Elpis for the second time here. This is the second time we've seen it broken apart like this, but we can actually see the kind of core in the middle here, or something going on in the middle. So that presumably wasn't a leak from Nintendo, so we have some confirmation that this is a sort of a fairly run-of-the-mill thing that's going to happen in the story of Borderlands 4, and maybe this is going to be part of one singular process. Maybe all the parts of Elpis are going to have to be reconnected for something that the Timekeeper is getting up to, or whether this is going to be sort of a cyclical thing where, you know, it's going to be breaking apart and reforming over time. The left here, that is not the left, that is the right. It's very hot today. It's pretty much the hottest day of the year where I am, so I am melting. I'm a melty mess. On the right we can see the big cored out mountain, which is at the north corner of Terminus Range. We've now seen the map for Borderlands 4, the layout of Kairos, so I'll be using that as a point of reference a little bit in this video. But yeah, that's in the north there, and it seems that Gearbox often stick, like they go for this scene because they're sort of, I don't know, I still feel like they're maybe trying to make a connection between this facility and what is going on with Elpis, which we've, you know, speculated on before. It definitely feels like that's the way it might go, but it may just be they like that angle. Not too much else here. A little bit of a wider shot than we've seen, and a little bit further to the left, so you've got just a little bit of a look at the road here as it's going up with some of the Timekeeper sort of posters there. Not too much else to point out. And here we're just having another look at the Vaulthunters, and Gearbox has made a number of iterations to these and thrown around some skins and what have you during the trailers we've seen so far. But it appears in this trailer they are solidifying that this is now their default look, and I think that they've made some good subtle changes over that time, and I'm personally a lot happier with where these characters are now. Vex and Eamon are pretty much where they were in the first instance. Which Eamon I'm still maybe not so keen on, but it's fine, and it feels more separated now that the other characters have been adjusted a bit more. So before it felt muddy because they were all they felt closer to each other in terms of their design, whereas it feels like now there's a bit more of a kind of separation, and part of that is Rafa having a more lean into sort of the mechanical, technological look, more robotic look, by them seeming to leave the mask on now by default, giving us Zero and Flak vibes. I think that is a good decision. He definitely seems to have a bit of an Octane from Apex Legends vibe about him in terms of his animations and his characteristics, and I think that suits having the mask on more often than not. And presumably there's going to be all sorts of skins and variations, and you can choose that as you please. But as the default character, I think that looks more solid now, and it also separates him more from the others. It gives him more uniqueness. And I think the most dramatic change, which is also down to more subtleties than anything else, is that Harlow now feels like she has a much better personality. She felt, to me, the most bland when they originally showed us these Vaulthunters. But now they've gone with a bit more attitude with her hairstyle, the glasses. They've sort of tried a few different versions of those, but these ones I think fit very well. And she has this more of sort of a stoic look and a vibe to her. Like before, she just looked kind of a bit more kind of cute and geeky maybe, but I feel like she's sort of, and you can see that being reflected here, that she's kind of been given a bit more kind of confidence to her look. And I think that works well. I think that fits well in her kind of role, and the sort of the vibe we get from her abilities and everything else. She's obviously meant to be a bit more sort of sciencey, a bit more of a smarter character. She's not the brawn, she's the brains. So that's good. I'm very pleased that they've made some good changes over time rather than just digging their heels in where they were before. Interestingly, I really like the fact here that Rafa's little hand compared to Harlow's is about a third of the size or something. And I don't know if that's because Harlow just has really, really big hands, or whether these gloves have some sort of mechanical component to them, but it's just quite funny having that contrast that, you know, her hands are massive. And as the story trailer, we're getting some more of an idea of how things are going to go in Borderlands 4. And we've got the Order walking someone here, escorting someone to this operating table. We don't know if this is any of our playable characters or whether this is just a cutscene or something else. But yeah, we're getting led through the corridors here, and this is leading us to a place where they're going to install a bolt into this poor person. And the bolts are devices, sort of spinal implants that the Timekeeper uses in order to control everyone on Kairos. And the blurb for Borderlands 4 says that the 4 Vaulthunters will crash land on Kairos, be captured by the Timekeeper, and have these bolts installed, meaning that we're not able to leave Kairos. So we don't know if this is part of the beginning of the game or another look back at it. We've got a lot of triangles on these devices. We love triangles in Borderlands 4. Triangle C, baby. And it does a couple of clips off of that, so I'll carry on with that in a second. We've got some of the Bratch, what are they actually called? Cratch? I don't know, the wildlife there. And on the left we've got a pretty clearly crash-landed Sanctuary 3. And we've got these sort of tapestry, flag, banner things that have been set up, which sort of makes it feel like, although Sanctuary is crash-landed, it doesn't feel like maybe it's totally abandoned. These are bits of... these are probably from Belton's Boar, which is Defiant Calder and that sect's kind of area, the Tibetan-looking area. So presumably they've sort of met up with them, and whoever may still be inhabiting Sanctuary 3 is just keeping things, you know, nice and homely. Bit of decoration. Back to the bolt process, and if this is any of the 4 Vaulthunters we play as, if not, it may just be a general NPC or just showing the process of the bolts as part of the story without any specificity as to who it's meant to be. But it certainly feels like this is a cutscene the player would be expected to view from the first person. So the other thought there is that if that is perhaps a tiny little kind of look at one of the 2 additional Vaulthunters that will be getting dropped post-launch, because we know there's at least 2 which will come out as part of DLC and part of the different versions of Borderlands 4 which can be pre-ordered now. So yeah, that might have been a tiny little look at an additional character, but let me know what you think about that, and we will continue. This is a look inside the Dominion. This the big cage city now has a proper name. It may have already had before, but maybe I'm just really slow. But yeah, so the Dominion is the 4th zone. So the 4 zones in Borderlands are Terminus Range, Fadelands, Carcadia something, and the Dominion. So you've got the snowy area, the grassy area, the sandy area, and the sea. And there's, you know, a spectrum of stuff within that. But so this will be one part of that gigantic city. So it seems there is only one Timekeeper Tower as well, and there's a reason I was starting to think that there was, well, several reasons I thought there was multiple, but it appears there is only one, and I'll explain that in just a bit. Another look at one of these power sources up underneath the grid in the sky of Dominion. So I assume that these are going to be tied to sectors of the map. Dominion appears to be split into, I'd say, 6 sections, and then 3 kind of major sections within that. So it's sort of like 2. So I guess you maybe have a situation there where there's going to be specific targets or objectives we're going to be trying to take down certain things, and then maybe power sources in multiple places that we're looking to interact with, or whatever we can do to muck up the Timekeepers' plans. But just another little look at those. And back to the bolt installation process, and we can see this rack on the right. There's just a whole load of bolts here, so there's a lot of people going to be having a bad day. And we have this golden hologrammatic version of the Timekeeper just, yeah, giving us some digs and just telling us what's going down. And there's our bolt. This is obviously a very painful process, as you would imagine, with a female voice here that is crying out in pain. And immediately here we get this other female voice kick in, which really, to me, feels like they're trying to feed that to us. They're trying to tell us, you know, I still feel like this is going to be Lilith. I really hope it's not, but it still feels like this is showing us the story and trying to give us an idea of what happened, even if what they're showing us is not the chronological way it's gone. It's trying to imply the story that Lilith landed here, stuff went wrong, she got captured, she got installed with a bolt, and so she's not a Vault Hunter anymore. She's now at the whim of the Timekeeper, and then she has turned into this character that's now called Queen Calypsis. Which we hear her talking, and we get a look at this structure which we've seen a number of times, which appears to be a very prominent Ripper structure. And I believe this to be here on the map, not 100%, but based on where the tower is in relation to clips we've seen of it, and the general kind of really, really rough look of the geometry here. That's the vibe I get. And this is Queen Calypsis herself, in a different sort of form, so without her arms out, so she's just walking around and chilling. So it's good to see that there is that different kind of phase of her. And she comes in here telling us now it's our turn to be installed with a bolt, and she has one in her hand ready to go, which I guess I guess she has a medical degree. Sure. And we can see this is a playable area as well. I'm not sure if there's actually like kind of one of the typical kind of Borderlands scenery style faces, but I definitely get that vibe with these kind of teeth here, and maybe these are sort of eyeballs. But she's climbed out this thing's mouth, and you can see that this would be a playable area as well, because just in the middle there we see one of the grappling points. So this might be our first introduction to Calypsis, whoever she may be. And then we switch to another one of the commanders, because I believe the structure is that these are all commanders, and this is a pretty different clip. So this guy is just here chilling with these other people around him in whatever location this may be, but as he puts his hand down, he actually activates a power on that kind of hand triangle that we've seen before, that green triangle on his hand, and it sort of fades out here, but if you look carefully you can see that as he grabs this person, I think they basically just disintegrate. He just disintegrates them, and I'm not sure if that is because you don't see the kind of pointy metallic shoulder component to him here. So I'm not sure if this is kind of like him absorbing this person, and that has powered up whatever it is that, you know, makes him sort of the gold kind of robotic components on him. So this clip would make sense that he's grabbed that person. The other clip we've seen him sort of start turning into this white and gold version, and then this clip here with him putting his hands aside is the next clip after that. Either way, I really like the character design on this guy. He's got sort of a bit of a sort of sumo-ish kind of feel to him, and this sort of integrated sort of component that's sort of beginning to corrupt or enhance his body. Just, yeah, he's got a different vibe. I can't remember just like a big kind of Colossus kind of guy like this. Colossal guy. Not Colossus X-Men, just big. And then we jump to another big meanie, and this looks to be in, I think that this is now meant to be inside some of the vaults. And this guy has got a very different style to anything I'd say we've seen in Borderlands before. I mean, there's sort of Iridian style components to some of it with the way his body is very lean and kind of gangly, but he definitely has a animalistic vibe to him rather than sort of a humanoid. And then we switch to Harlow here with her new, more confident look. And then Eamon, this is just cycling through, just a nice little intro sort of shot of each of the Vaulthunters. And they are, I definitely do feel like these are just looking better now. I still don't think that they're as strong as any of the previous Vaulthunters as a full package, but it definitely feels more compelling. A bit of Zane and Amara, but yeah, just them having a bit of catch up. And then we jump to this area. And we've got one of the flags here with the kind of the flaming triangle, which we still don't know for definite obviously what that is, but I still have suspicions that it's tied to a resistance movement, tied to Lilith. If nothing else, it's relevant on the Ripper facilities in general. We tend to see it in those, although we have seen it also in one of the kind of more rebel areas, so maybe there's more of a general thing to that, or maybe it's just, you know, just another kind of vault symbol. You know, it's just the way these guys are referring to the vaults. You know, it is just Triangle City around here. Maybe it's just a stylistic component they've added for Borderlands 4, just so we've got something a little bit different to look at. So this area here I believe to be in the top left of the world map, and it's either this area or this area. And I think this is going to actually be our way that we get to Elpis. So I think this is probably directly below where Elpis is sort of stationed above Kairos. And you see these sort of rock juts sort of coming out from the sides. This area is, you know, a specific point of impact for something. So this may have been kind of ground zero for the upheaval that happened as Elpis arrived. But if you have a look at this thing at the back here, you can see this kind of rocket component. So this is on 4 corners of this, I think, and this is a platform with a like a tube or a column that reaches, I think, all the way up to Elpis. So I think this is like a rocket powered like elevator platform. So you'll go here, do whatever, and then you're trying to get to this, and this will power up and blast you all the way up to Elpis. So it's not going to be a spaceship or something like that. I think it's going to be this sort of static component that's going to allow us to get to Elpis. And that could be very cool. I'm very excited to see how they play that out, whether they cheat and turn that into a cutscene or whether they will leave it in real time. So you'll be doing stuff on the platform while it's going up. That could be very, very, you know, that could be an amazing sequence if they do that correctly. And it's definitely reminiscent of one of my favorite scenes that we've ever had in a first-person shooter, which was in Halo Reach, when you had to commandeer a spaceship, and you pretty much, it wasn't like you didn't have control, but they executed the scene as such, and it was sort of a real-time, you know, takeoff, a real-time launch from the planet to space. So if they actually have this as a working scene, and you're kind of rising away from Kairos and just seeing all of the scenery go away from you in the distance as you move towards the moon, that could be really, really cool. We've got these big iridium shards that are all smashed into the ground, which I think aren't exclusive to here, but there's a high volume there because of that being kind of that ground zero sort of location. This area I think is called Belton's Bore, and we've seen it over and over again. I think in here is the chambers where we've been seeing some of the cutscenes where Amara and Defiant Kaldor appear to be, so this is where we're going to be having some of those interactions, like a bit of a hub area, a bit of a sanctuary area. And they've done a lot more with this, like the bunting and stuff is all more solidified. This area is feeling a lot busier and a lot more complete than the first time we saw it. We have this hologram going off in front of the shrine here, and for anyone who wasn't aware of my thoughts on the shrine, you can't really see it because of the hologram in front of it, but for all intents and purposes, you've got like a ball in the middle, and then you've got these 2 concentric circles on the outside, and they're broken open. And I think the idea is that this is meant to be sort of, you know, implying the whole scenario of what's happened. This is sort of to do with the resistance against the Timekeeper and this idea of break free. And so, yeah, you've just got that on the roof there. But I couldn't make out anything with this hologram, but that blue hologram, I don't think we've ever seen that before. So that's some additional component that maybe, you know, maybe sort of like a PA, like a broadcast system. So maybe there's going to be one of the characters is going to pop up there and be talking to us at some point in the story, or sort of speaking out to all of the citizens of this area and, you know, rise up and blah 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 blah, or, you know, hey, there's a problem or something. But yeah, might be a bit of a public announcement kind of vibe. This is somewhere in Terminus range. I don't think there's really too much to this shot. It's just showing us another bit of scenery. The Tibetan vibe on some of the architecture here does mean that it is potentially close to the sort of Belt and Spore style area. You've got this kind of drilling robot, I kind of get the vibe of here, this orange glowing mechanical thing on the rocks. So I'm not sure if that's maybe something that's breaking down materials, going to be part of the story around here, that we may have to interact with those. And here we finally get some claptrap action, and this, I guess, is going to be the start of the story. You'll have this sequence where the Vault Hunters end up with the bolts, or it may be done like a cutscene, as is often the case in Borderlands games. But then we have Claptrap here getting pretty excited that maybe someone has come to help save him from his current situation, and finds Rafa in a moment on the floor and yeets a can at him, which is pretty funny. A few more of the Tibetan style bits of architecture there, I think, in the background in this area. But the most important part of this scene is this very crazy looking gun that Harlow is carrying, which she doesn't fire either. So I'm not sure if that's going to be in the heavy class of stuff, and that's going to be like a mortar style weapon, or I wondered if it might even be, if you've seen on some of the videos so far, and I've pointed this out, there's some of the bulkhead style characters have these kind of funnels on like their backs that I kind of feel like it's going to be some sort of wavy kind of attack or something like that, and I wondered if maybe this would have a tie-in to that, whether this will be some sort of shock weapon, like a, you know, gravity style weapon. Gravity is another thing we've talked about, and maybe in connection to the rainbow burn, but I don't think we see any more of that in this trailer, and I don't think anything specific has been said on that. But yeah, there's a lot more gameplay out there at the moment after the current events, so need to go and have a bit more of a look. Down here we can see this green orb in the building, and I haven't pointed out anything from those, I don't think, since pretty much the first look trailer, and we saw a few of them on that. I don't think we've had clarity as to what those are indicating is there, because originally I thought it was like a fast travel station, but I think we've been shown a different device which is labelled as a fast travel station at this point, and I don't think it had that traditional kind of look. So just worth noting that's there. Rafa here in a very sort of purpley feeling area with a lot of the Iridian shards, so it does look different than the area we saw just now, although we know there's the day-night cycles and there is some ambient weather changes, so it may be that he's in that area, but I think this maybe is somewhere we haven't really seen too much of. And I think the most important thing here is this gun. I've really liked the style of this one, just the sort of broken up way that it looks. I'm not sure if that's meant to be in the Maliwan class just because of certain components, but either way I like the look of that, and it seems to be firing out like a sort of, I don't know, it's sort of quite a square kind of projectile. Oh yeah, it's also worth noting he's got like a blade on the underbarrel there. It's almost sort of makes me think of like sort of needly style guns, or like stake firing guns that we see in quite a few games these days. And we got a clip here of Vex and Trouble, and Vex has got a pretty big machine gun style vibe going on there, but can't really see it. And this is that clip of Claptrap trying to wake Rafa up, which looks like that could be setting up a good tone for the start of the game. I have been really concerned that maybe the game isn't going to be as much just fun this time around, but we're seeing more of those components now. I'm sort of hoping that Borderlands retains its stupidity, because that, you know, that's really what I connect with personally. Like, I'm looking for silly stupidity and just, you know, goofing around. And we see the welcome recruit sign there, which is in the background of the menus. So that's sort of why this all makes sense, that this is the start of the game and how everything is going to get going. And this is in the Fade Lands. Is it Fade Lands? Fade Fields. I think I'm pretty sure it's Fade Fields is all the, like, classed as all the green area. And this, I would say, is on the left-hand body mass, because I think it's probably, that's more tropical, leading towards the sort of deserty, orangier area. And then it's more of the rurally kind of farmlandy sort of vibe in the right-hand region. Which I think, because now we've seen the map, and actually, this is a good time to talk about this, actually, because this, I think, is one of the only clips in this one with a Timekeeper Tower snuck in, so you can see the Timekeeper Tower in the background there. And the orange line, in my opinion, indicates the front of the tower. And I was starting to think there was lots of multiple towers, because, well, not lots, but several, because of the orange line being facing towards us in different scenes. I was like, well, it can't be the same tower. But now we've seen an overview of it, I wonder if it is the same tower. I'm now starting to get, like, you know, Sauron's Eye vibes with this thing. And I think maybe there's a chance that, let me break this down. So you get, here's the map of the game. So you've got these kind of almost Earth-style seasons or sort of vibes to the zone. So Terminus Range is kind of wintry. Then we've got the Fade Fields, which is 2 large sections, but feels a bit like spring, summer. And then Carcadia. I really need to check what that's called. The desert area and the orangier area is sort of, you know, the idea of autumn. So it's almost like seasons. It's almost like the 4 seasons, and it's the time, at least in Earth terms. And then you have the Dominion in the middle, which has the central bit here where the tower is. And I think maybe the tower rotates. I think this is almost like a clock. I think the tower, like, you know, because the idea is that the Timekeeper is held up in his tower with his commanders out in the world, you know, doing his bidding. And he's there keeping an eye on all the events of what's going on. So the idea that this tower could be kind of almost like following us around the world, like watching us as we're doing stuff, and sort of that menacing, just sort of keeping an eye on us from a distance vibe, you know, that could be, I mean, that would be a heck of a feat for the game, like, if that's how they've actually got it structured. But that's really cool, like, if you've got this tower that's sort of rotating in the middle, and that again breaks down to how I think the actual city is broken down, because it looks like 6 sections. So if you're, you know, if you were thinking of Earth terms again, the 24-hour clock, like 6 breaks into it 4 times. So maybe that's even going to tie into the day-night cycle of the game. Maybe, like, you know, it's sort of more on like an idea of sort of 6-hour days, because it's not Earth, so time could be very different. And that also plays into the way that games play, because games tend to have faster day-night cycles. So if you imagine the day is shorter, that kind of works. And the tower could be, you know, could be on a constant ticking. I mean, because I think this is some device or something that's part of the planet of Kairos anyway. But so that may be just like a set thing, or it may be that the Timekeeper is specifically turning the tower and whatever and looking at things as we're doing them. I don't know, but it's just interesting thoughts. Like, it's just all speculation, just having a bit of fun with what we see here. I'm probably talking an absolute load of tosh, but yeah, just having some fun. That's just ideas from what I see. And then we've got another clip here, just of one of the new sort of style bandits, and Elpis with the core exposed again in the background. So that's obviously going to be, you know, no big surprise in the story now. So that's something they're not too fussed about making a big fuss about. Some of the order units here, a bit of character to these. The bulkhead almost sort of sitting up a bit like a dog, which is quite different to see. And this guy's got a few different extra assets in his arms and what have you. We got these drills going through the floor. I assumed these were going to be static assets. They were just going to be sort of telling the story of something that had happened. And we've only seen these, I think, in the Dominion up to this point. So to see them here actually coming through the floor is very different. And to me, it could just be a run-of-the-mill thing, or maybe this could be part of an event that's happening. Maybe the sort of public event style encounters that can happen in Borderlands 4. Maybe that's one of the ones you could have, where drills come through the floor and a bunch of bad guys jump out, and you got to deal with that. That could be good fun. Another grappling point on this kind of container here. So I think we're seeing more and more uses for the grappling hook and these nodes. I really like that. I was concerned at first that the specificity of using the nodes was going to be limiting in the game, but they haven't gone for it as like just a general grappling mechanic, because they've got them pulling open ventilators. We've seen footage recently of them being used to adjust like platforms for navigation, to like jump onto platforms, and then obviously we must have functions like opening other doors or things like that. So there's hopefully some good puzzle elements that can tie into that, and that definitely is looking more compelling than it was before. They really like this animation. We got the bandit here chucking the grenade out by doing a whack with his lead pipe again. And there's very big skeleton behind. Tons of skeletons in the game. Lots of long dead mega scale wildlife that's deceased. And another bulkhead here. And this clip, the main thing I'm sort of looking at is this little mini bulkhead at the back here, I guess it is. A very cute little kind of robotic unit charging up the back, which I don't think we've really seen those yet, but good to see more variation in the enemy units. This looks like a story clip with Rafa standing up in the fire. Nice sort of cinematic feel to that. And this guy, we have seen at least someone similar to him before. Very, very rippery unit, like basically all robot except for one arm. And you've got this banner in the background. I don't think we've actually seen that full sentence before, but you can see this banner at the background says "Rip the Cord." So we've seen "rip" around a number of times, and I was just thinking "rest in peace" or just short for rippers, but I guess that's meant to be just a bit of a fun catchphrase for the rippers. Rip the cord. And again, back to that giant ripper structure. And I did point it out earlier, but just again, I think this is most likely to be here on the map, because in the previous trailer we saw the tower off to this side. So it feels like that significant structure probably is in that location. And we got Rafa and Vex going through on the floor here. Just a nice wider shot sort of showing us how this area is set out into the landscape of Kairos. And then I think this is Eamon's vehicle. And we've seen a few variations on Eamon's vehicle, but it appears that you can get quite dramatic changes to the sort of skins on those, because we've seen one. So I guess this would be, if you're thinking of it in Borderlands 3 terms, we've seen his normal one looks more kind of just like a space Harley Davidson, whereas this one's got a lot more bulked up armor on it. So I guess it will be like a heavy version of that, so maybe a slower version with just better health, durability, however you want to think of it. And Harlow here on her Digirunner, and I haven't really taken in too much about hers, but I guess maybe because this looks like this has maybe got like a big kind of extra plate on it as well, so maybe that's the point of those two shots, because I don't know if we saw these big kind of missile launcher deal on her vehicle as well. Not sure, but I think that those two clips maybe are meant to be demonstrating some of the variation in the Digirunners. And here, if you look at the floor, we see as Rafa goes up to this cliff, there's sort of like lights on the floor, which are indicating that this is, I guess, like a bit of a booster. So we're going to have those in the world, which are going to be sort of helping us get to different locations or jumping over some gaps or whatever. And he does a nice big jump here into that area from the top left, and you can see it much clearer here with the land all kind of ripped open, and you can see there the sort of the tube or the column going all the way up, and I think that will be directly up to Elpis, and this is what I consider to be that sort of platform elevator. I'm pretty sure this is the same area we've seen a bunch of times in this kind of more bayou area of Fade Fields, but just a lower shot there. So I was actually stopping this to have a look at the gun. We've got this Vladoff gun here with the side-loading magazine and tons of little just components all over this one. Nice style to that gun. I like that big fat muzzle on there. But now looking at this, like getting this different angle, I think maybe the hands we saw earlier getting put in the chair for the bolt attachment, I think that is Rafa's hands. I think maybe just the light was sort of making that look a little bit darker, and I hadn't really kind of taken in these sort of glass components. I don't know if this is a variation of his skin or whether I just haven't looked at it properly before, but I definitely feel like there's a pretty high chance that that was Rafa that was getting put in the chair for the bolts, even though we seem to get a female voice screaming. But again, I feel like they're trying to, that they were using those scenes and weren't necessarily trying to say it was Rafa. They're trying to sell the story, and they used that to illustrate, you know, what happens. So I don't know, little unsure on that now, less confident feeling than I was before, but the hand and the style definitely looks like it fits for Rafa. So let me know what you think about that. Again, this chick we've seen before, not too much to say on her, just seems like a Daedalus character. I don't know if she's a commander of the Timekeepers, and she's, you know, the vibe you get here is that she's sort of rebelling against him because the Order drags her off in another clip we saw. It's got this gun here that I guess we're maybe going to end up with when she gets dragged off with the triangle shooting. So maybe this is going to be like an opening to the Daedalus style burn, but we will see. A bit of a cinematic with Moxie here, getting a gun in the face of this this bandit or this chap that's causing her some grief. Speakers in the background. I guess this is going to be just in one of her kind of areas. She's got longer hair, I guess, than we've ever seen before, with this kind of braid coming down into a sort of ponytail deal. And quite a Borderlands 3 style looking gun. I can't remember what I'd say that one is, but there's a legendary that looks a lot like that. This guy is really cool, bit of a black tiche kind of assassin vibe. Like this, I want this guy as a Vault Hunter. Give me this guy. I don't feel that that's the case, but yeah. The background there as well, with this sort of weird purple chamber with mechanical components coming off, and this almost looks a bit organic. So I don't know if this is going to be some sort of creature behind him that's sort of, you know, part robotic or whatever. You jump in there and fly around. Who knows? But yeah, I like the style of him, something a bit different that sort of stands out. Again, the white and gold theme, so it feels like this guy is something to do with Daedalus. White and gold everywhere. And the little cutout in the blade here. And his hands and that, like there's sort of almost like a vampiric kind of sort of vibe to him. Same clip we've seen, basically, of this character. And she's referring to us as a hero, so that's a bit different. Amara with this pet, she's pet sitting, and it looks like, I mean, to me, that looks a bit like one of the artifacts from Borderlands 3, so I don't know if that's going to be just sort of a bit of a joke they make, or whether they're carrying that style across for some of the enhancements. I'm not sure. But that's just another little look at them. And Amara is doing some sort of kind of ability here, but can't really see what she's getting at. Moxie in the bar again. There's quite a lot of repetition of a lot of these clips from one trailer to the next, which I do find strange. And we've got this big kind of machine that's covered with drills, like a boring machine, boring lands. And yeah, I think this is, again, you can see the sort of ground kicked up here, so this may be something we're going to have to deal with in that area where I was saying there's kind of that orbital kind of platform deal. Rafa and Eamon firing some shots into that, which could be a cool fight. Nice to see the variety of that, and bringing back sort of the big vehicles. It's obviously not a Carnivora scale vehicle, but there's that kind of vibe, and obviously those sorts of things that Gearbox have played around with in their games. And here we've got a clip of Defiant Calder, presumably a cutscene, and he's doing some very Yoda-like small guy agility and absolutely going ham on these order units. So just a little bit more on him. One of these big wildlife creatures, which I presume this may be a boss. I'm not sure if that's the exact enemy, but very similar to the one we saw in this external shot with Eamon. It's very often they put clips with just 3 Vaulthunters, which I do find that strange, but I guess maybe the idea is that you're the one behind the 3, so that's the 4. But, you know, very, very commonly putting 3 together, so they're really, I think, trying to bang on this drum that they want Destiny players to feel welcomed. Come play, it's just, you know, it's just Destiny, but with more. And then this may be in one of the vaults as well. We've got these this guy that's similar to the creature that was climbing out of the kind of scenery in one of the earlier clips. And there's a few different variations we see of these creatures, so whether they're going to be a new class of things, or whether they're tied to the Iridians, or if they're to do with Timekeeper tech and stuff here on Kairos. But there's a nice different sort of style to them. The only thing they really make me think of is I kind of sort of get Vorak kind of vibes with these guys. So it's nice to have that different kind of, in this case, sort of cybernetic wildlife kind of vibe. Also sort of has sort of Battleborn-y vibes to that as well. In this shot here, we've got this Hollow's doing one of her abilities, and it's worth noting we've got these guys that all appear to be wearing a similar sort of uniform as we head up to one of the internals of the cage city at the top of the Dominion. And this is another kind of very elaborate lead up. I think that we've seen one clip that might have been sort of just past this section where we were fighting a bulkhead. But these units here, this one on the left, you can see this guy seems to be matching these guys' theme, but he seems very focused in moving away from us, and then even sort of stops as if he's waiting for us. So I'm not sure if that's an indication that Harlow has an ability to turn an enemy into a friend for some time, or whether that's just some sort of general ability that may be able to be used in the game with a certain bit of kit. But yeah, if we watch him run here, he sort of seems to be like he's running away from us and then sort of pauses a little bit. Again, that fight with the large sort of slightly reptilian style cybernetic organism. And very cool little animation there where he sort of dropped down and then very quickly slid round to the back. It really rings my memory, that specific move, and I can't think what it's from. I don't think I'm thinking of Borderlands with it, but it just really rings like the memory bells. Slight different change here on Eamon's ability, which looks different from his angle than the actual execution of it, but he sort of appears to stick both of his axes together and then throw them out, I guess to do some specific bit of damage. Timekeeper Tower in the back there, very far, you can see as we're at this very large tree structure, and this character is blowing something up, so I presume this is us sabotaging something that's of significance. Rafa's here waiting, and as this character flies backwards, we get a very little look at him, and the first thing to note, other than the character model's hand is stuck awkwardly in the gun and looks hilarious, is that this character looks a little bit familiar. I kind of felt a little bit like, it looked a bit like Titus from Bound by Blood DLC from Borderlands 3, but you know, only just a little bit, so this could be a new character, or maybe I'm just not picking up on that. So any thoughts, if you think you know who this is, then let us know. As he flies backwards, we get a look at just how big this tree must be, so this is quite an interesting space, and I think this is probably most likely to be, but that's just a complete guess, based on just small bits of information we're picking up about the world map and where I kind of feel like different parts of the biome sort of tend to sit. And then we see this large ship in the sky here, and it appears to be blowing up at this point, but so I think in some of the recent event stuff we've seen, these can turn up as like a public event, so a ship will pop into an area and you can go up and you have to clear out and take the ship down to clear the event. Really like this look of the look of this gun here. Again, something a little bit different, lots of different little components all over that, has a lot of style to it. Couldn't tell you anything about it. And we see the ship in the next clip actually crash land, so if that's actually all done as a set sequence while you're doing these events, that's very impressive to actually have, you know, something happen on the fly like that, and, you know, in real time, then actually, you know, crash land, and then presumably it would just sit there for a few minutes and then disappear, but either way it's very impressive. Some more of Rush here. Still liking the look of him. And this appears to be another one of those sort of cybernetic organic kind of units with, again, very different sort of look with these super extra gangly arms and a bit of a frost vibe. So I'm not sure if, because I guess we've seen a corrosive one of those, and I guess the first one was looking a bit like an incendiary version maybe, so maybe that those are going to be just one per burn, and they're sort of like specific takedown sort of bosses, or vault bosses. And then we got this guy here, which is a bit of a sort of nasty sandworm dragon thing, presumably another boss. We've got the Vaulthunters coming in here and trying to take him down. We got Vex with this, I don't know if this is going to be a heavy weapon, but it's quite a sort of, quite a large rifle, machine gun, Gatling gun style vibe. Jacobs in style, that she's shooting out there. Again, putting the 3 Vaulthunters together. I don't know why they do that. It just makes sense to me to have the 4 to sort of be making a point of the 4-player component. And once again, we get headbutted to the tune of Break Free. I think this probably was my favourite trailer for Borderlands 4 that we've seen in a while. There's a lot in there, and we can really see the game starting to actually come together now, get a better sense of what it's going to be like to play when it comes out. Not too keen on the way they've broken up the pricing structure. I mean, Gearbox seem to let themselves down at such simple things, like the Gilded Glory Pack doesn't look like much. Particularly for the fact that you get 1 Vault Hunter skin. In Borderlands 3, for example, we got skins for at least each of the Vault Hunters, so I don't know why they would do something that's so stingy. It just doesn't, it just feels silly, especially for the way the price jumps are. Like, they don't really seem to, you don't really gauge what you're getting for that, and there's been so many times that Gearbox has let us down with pre-order stuff before, and with Borderlands 3, the pre-order skins that you got, which were kind of golden, actually were, they were crashing the game. Like, they were specifically the problem early on with Borderlands 3, so, I don't know, just, there's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of things I'm still worried about for the game, but there is a lot of things that I'm liking, and I'm really, really excited to get our hands on it. Less than 3 months out, so there's not long left, and let's just hope they keep cooking. So anyway, thanks very much for watching this video. I really do appreciate you taking the time to check out this content. If you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe, and please do share your thoughts on anything I've talked about here, or anything else you're thinking about in terms of Borderlands 4, and I'll catch you next time, Vault Heads. Take it easy, have a great day, peace out.